Well, thank you all for being here. This is important and interesting, and really do appreciate the work that you're doing, and we do want to be helpful and make sure that we do this well. With development and usage, I know of UAS expanding certainly is crucial that we understand the research our government is doing, especially the research that will affect the rulemaking process FAA is currently undergoing. From a competitive standpoint, it's also crucial that we do this right so that we're not encouraging businesses to move elsewhere or denying access to researchers for the best, most cost-effective tools that they need to do their work. To be frank, sometimes I find the FAA's process to be a little bit confusing, and I agree certainly with the need for public safety. That should always be our top goal. But right now, my fear is in the name of safety, I'm afraid we are stifling innovation and research opportunities by keeping pretty harmless UASs out of the sky. At the same time, on an unrelated topic, but one that's important to me, I've been trying to get answers from the FAA about their air traffic controller hiring practices, which were recently changed, and I believe could jeopardize the safety of airline passengers across the country. We're going to continue to try and get answers there from the FAA. But getting to questions, Mr. Williams, in early December 2014, the Association of American Universities and Association of Public Land-Grant Universities wrote a letter to FAA stating, and I quote, "There is no timely workable mechanism for both public and private universities to secure FAA approval to conduct important research utilizing small unmanned aerial systems or SUAS technology." Wondered, has FAA considered issuing a rule to make it easier for universities to research SUASs, such as allowing universities to research SUASs on their own property below 400 feet?
Well, we believe that our small rule will address the needs of the universities. We also believe that, and I've had discussions with several universities about this, that they can move forward using our Section 333 process to conduct their its training, research, etc. And I've had discussions with several universities about the possibility of doing that, and I think they're interested.
Okay. So in the meantime, there is some opportunities there, but also you expect that the rule would give them this ability to do some of the research that they're looking to do. Mm-hmm. Mr. Williams, roughly how much interest is there in the FAA test sites in terms of calls, meetings, and website visits? How many organizations have actually used the test sites?
I don't have that data with me, sir. We can certainly get back to you with that.
Could you? That'd be great. If you can maybe get that back to us or to the committee, that would be terrific. Mr. Wynn and Mr. Gwynn, how would you organize the FAA UAS test sites to best accommodate industry's R&D needs?
Sir, we want to get this word out. I think it's early days for the test sites, so we've got to make the more accessible. We've discussed earlier the need for greater transparency, getting the costs down, et cetera. I think there's also a need to focus the research on the specific areas that we've been all agreeing needs to be advanced. So I think those are the primary elements that we'd be looking at.
Do you have anything to add?
I would take the 6 FAA test sites that exist in remote locations and expand that to test sites that might be on your company's private property that have, strict regulations around what you're allowed to do, geofenced. The drones with a geofence will not cross that barrier. They have that level of intelligence today. So sub 400 feet, don't cross the geofence, remain line of sight, and now that test site can be on your own company's property.
Have you heard if they're open to that, looking into that?
Are you guys open to that?
Mr. Williams?
I believe that we have the experimental process could accommodate that type of operation. We have experimental airworthiness certificates that we issue for development, research, et cetera, that have been taken advantage of by other companies to do exactly that. So that process does remain available to anyone who chooses to use it.
And I hear that a lot, and that's the same. Is that the same airworthiness certificate that there's been 14 total granted so far in the country of all the people that want to fly drones?
No, we've issued quite a few more experimental certificates.
So the Section 333, that's what's required for a private drone operator to be able to operate and do testing?
That's for commercial use. The experimental process is for the developmental use.
Okay, so I guess I'm talking about more for private sector versus government.
Let me ask you this real quick because I'm running out of time. But on that, how do you see other countries' openness to doing this versus the United States, your members? Have you seen similar openness here as in other countries, or do you see greater challenge?
Well, there's a huge disparity, and I think in other countries they just use a simple, proportional risk-based system to say if the drone is very lightweight and being flown low altitude, line of sight, there's a lot less regulation than a heavy drone being flown out of line of sight at higher altitudes. So
to me, it makes common sense. Yeah,
pretty logical.
So hopefully, we can see what other countries have been doing safely, and we can do the same thing here. Thank you, Chairman, for your indulgence. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Hultgren.